Cyclists look on the bright side as a banner heading in one of the articles in this week's local newspapers, The Guardian and the Wexford People. It concerns Phil Skelton, who joins me now. Good morning to you, Phil.
Good morning, Alan. Good morning to your listeners.
Now, Phil, let's look at these new Wexford layouts. I see an article feature in this week's edition of the People newspaper and the Guardian newspaper. You're looking on the bright side of these new layouts. Why so?
Yeah, look, just to contextualise this first, Alan, the article was really in reply to a previous article done the previous week by a taxi driver who gave his view of driving around town, and one of the statements on it was that the impromptu diversions and array of traffic calming measures had made life on the streets particularly challenging for drivers, pedestrians and cyclists this summer. And yes, I would agree it has done for drivers, but I would argue that it hasn't done for pedestrians and cyclists in the main. A lot of this is around the narrowing of junctions, which over 50% of cyclist collisions happen around junctions. So obviously if you can get traffic to slow and get more time to look at what's going on around them at junctions, it's a help to cyclists. But I agree there is a little bit of a controversy around the communication of how all this has occurred.
Right, but you see positives in the tightening of these junctions. Can you tell us why you see the positives and how it will benefit cyclists, Phil?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I'd love to see Wexford County Council's communications office come on and explain, the measures they've done, why they've taken them. I'm sure they're following some manual or other, but basically in the main, it's about slowing down traffic. When you narrow down streets, traffic does slow down, and I've seen that myself. I ride mostly around town and I drive around town, but you can see, say, in Whitemill, for example, traffic, it certainly appears to be, anecdotally for me anyway, slowing down a little bit because of the narrowing of the streets. And when you have vehicles that are driving, fast along streets that are shared with cyclists, they tend to dominate that space, and it makes it very uncomfortable for cyclists. So when people are slowed down a little bit, it just gives people more time to interact with each other and to see each other in time and all that.
All right, so that's your view, and it's an interesting view. It'll be interesting to see what the listeners think as well, but you'd like more communication done to highlight these areas. And is this, we're talking about the Wexford Town District now this morning. Are you getting, because Wexbug kind of covers the entire county, doesn't it? You've got people who engage with you from all over County Wexford and beyond. Yeah. So, have you had similar concerns raised by cyclists in other parts of County Wexford?
Look, I guess these things, the narrowings are kind of a side issue to what we're really looking for. We're looking for, a segregation of cyclists, basically, to putting bollards up to segregate cycle lanes to stop cars parking in them, and, just for to maybe help kids cycle to school, and that's the kind of thing we look for. So the junctions and all that are for me, they are something that needs to be communicated. This would have originated somewhere or other. The funding has been around the road narrowing and tightening of junctions maybe since April. So somebody applied for that, somebody got it. It started somewhere, so there's a reason for it, and I think that should be communicated by Wexford County Council, to be honest with you.
All right, well, we'll go back to them and we'll forward those concerns to them after this interview this morning. You also go on to say that you believe an awful lot more needs to be done. And what would you like to see done? You've talked about the segregation already in our chat with you this morning. What else would you like to see done? You talk about the completion of a cycle lane out to Castlebridge.
Yeah, I think that's a crucial piece of infrastructure there, Alan. Castlebridge is a growing area there. I know Wexford County Council applied for funding for to complete that on the last round of funding. Now, bear in mind, there's €1 million a day allocated under the programme for government for active travel. Now, for me, I think they just applied for too much. I think their application was in around the region of 8 to 10 million. The maximum that anybody got on that round of funding was 2 million. So I think they need to be a little bit less ambitious and just go for the cycle lanes as a standalone project, rather than adding footpaths and all that. And maybe they can do that at a later stage. And to segregate it is really what it needs to happen. There's tractors and stuff driving into that. And if my kids are growing up, but certainly if I was having a kid cycle into Wexford Town from Castlebridge or vice versa, I'd like to see where nobody could be driving in. They have the area to themselves. They're not bothering the driver isn't bothering them. And as a parent, you would certainly see that as a more safer interaction.
Good to talk to you as always, Phil. And I know people will agree and disagree with you, but that's life. Let's look at National Bike Week, which starts on September the 12th and runs until September the 18th. What's the main message you'd like to get out for this, please?
Yeah, again, we have another bike week that's coming our way. The real thing I want to say, like we're encouraging bike use in great ways at the moment, and it has. I think the pandemic has probably done more for bike use than any bike week could ever do. To be honest with you, there are so many people out there, and a lot of them have continued. Some haven't when traffic came back on the road. So I think the whole idea of this is to start building our infrastructure to keep the cyclists who are out there safe and to keep them cycling. Bear in mind, for people who are stuck in a snarl of traffic this morning on the road, each person you can coax out of a car onto a bike, let's say, for example, is one less car on the road. I remember seeing a lovely poster in London a good many years ago with, "You're not stuck in traffic, you are traffic." You know, if you're choosing to go into that car in the morning, you're part of the traffic snarl. Yes, everybody can't go on a bike, and that needs to be made absolutely clear. But for me, for example, I choose to go into town anytime on a bike rather than a car because it's just easier for me to get around. I don't have to worry about parking. It's just a lot easier. But I could equally choose to hop into my car and go on in and be part of the snarl of traffic that's in town. And we need to start creating opportunities where that decision, pardon me, is easier to make for people.
Wexbug's Phil Skelton there. What do you make of that? Let us know your thoughts. 053 9145 222. Our thanks as always to Phil for his forthright views. He doesn't disguise what he thinks, and he's very forthright, and also delves deep into his facts and figures, etc. So our thanks to Phil. Agree or disagree with him, let us know your thoughts. Give Siobhan a call on 053 9145 222, or pick up the phone and text us as well, 087 3737 956. Bottom line, says this motorist, I pay